And just watch this last piece, this little trim here, as easy as that. Well, there she is. Let's check now the gap all the way along. Should be 7 mil. Now if I just carefully go along, and I would say actually in the middle there is a little bit of a dip there. If you go to Mercedes, they're going to cost you an arm and a leg, literally for the sake of actually adjusting 3 screws. That chime that you hear, that means the roof's going to fold down. Keep your fingers well out the way, the wood's going to hold it. Watch. See that? And I can actually see by the alignment of that hole that I'm now about 3/4 of a mil. So this has just started happening. It's on the roof liner. So what I'm finding is you get a bit of moisture. If you haven't got a garage and you haven't got a cover, you've got to face facts. In your beautiful Mercedes SL, you're going to get a bit of moisture in there no matter what you do, especially in the trunk. And for the first time in 21 years, well, about 8 years since I've had this car, my blinds on the window aren't retracting, and I think it's just down to a little bit of corrosion on the roller blinds. I'll show you. As I move the blinds up, normally when I press them and go back, they will retract into there, but now I'm going to be a bit creative and give it a little tap, and then they kind of go in like so. And they get to about there, and that's the end of it. So guess what? I'm going to take this panel off. Enough talk, let's get into it, but it also gives me a good indication on that left hand side. I always wanted to adjust it because just here there's always been a little bit of a drip, and I managed to actually, I'll show you what I've done. I actually put a bit of tiny rubber tape on there, about 1/2 mil thick, and it was just enough to seal it. But really the right way to do it is take the panel off, as in the roof, and there's an adjustment screw which maybe I can do as well. So in order to get the roof panel off, I haven't done it before, you need to get the roof in the half open, half closed position. Please be really careful when you do this, because you've only got about 5 minutes if you don't support it, which I thoroughly recommend you do before it will come down on you, and you've got to watch your fingers, so please be careful. So get yourself a piece of wood, about 12 inches will do ya, you know what I mean? Right, so let's get the roof lowered, and then you're going to wedge this to stop it from retracting back on itself. Get into about that position there. You might need to just sort of play with the switch a little bit just until you get it just right. Then once you get it, you can lock it in position there. So now if you look here, I like to wedge it where the lock is, and it's not going to come down on itself. So now you can get to these screws here, which you need to undo to get the inside of the roof clean. And not a little tip, just make sure your hands are clean, especially if you're touching in and around the lock, because you get greasy hands. You don't want to get your nice lining of your roof all marked. Right, let's keep going. So the next thing is getting these screws undone. The little star screws. Oh, that's loose. There's actually 5 little screws here. So when you undo it, there's the little rubber trim. Just peel that back. Take your time. Do the same on the other side. And just watch this last piece, this little trim here, because there's only a thin piece of material, so you don't want to snap anything. That bit there, this is where you want to be really careful, but at the back here there's these little white poppers, and they pop off that way. Watch your fingers. Please watch your fingers. And that's it. She's removed. There you go. Never done it before. It's as easy as that. So just watch these. They pull off towards the back of the car. You can see here that this is typical, because on my rear window I had the same thing. I'm going to have to super glue that back on again, so it's stuck on the side of the car, and it's exactly the same on the other side. That's popped off, but that's kind of normal. I mean, the last time this was off the car was 21 years ago. Right. So you can see there, look, in the corner, that's the other. That chime that you hear, that means the roof's going to fold down. Keep your fingers well out the way, the wood's going to hold it. Watch. See that? If it wasn't for that piece of wood, this will be folding in on you. So just please take your time and be careful. So these are those clips. I'm just going to glue that back on again. Right, let's have a look at this blind. So you can see there's the bottom of the blind there, and if I give it a bit of a tap, sometimes it goes in. So I'm going to pull it all the way out and get some lubricant on that. It doesn't look rusty, which is good. You still see it's got its nice shininess there. So it's actually probably just on the edge of the bearing there. Just get a bit of spray in there, I think. Here, there's probably a little bit of lube needed. So I'm going to use a little bit of silicone lube, I think. So what I decided to do, I'm going to take the whole thing off. It's 4 screws to undo. Just going to leave that one in, do the other side. Okay, well, there she is. How much do you think this is worth? Probably 500 quid for a couple of sun blinds. Right, it's going to get on the bench and have a look. Right. Okay. Oh, I can see the back of it now. So, just in here, it doesn't seem to be retracting. I thought it was going to be rusty, but it looks all right. So why is that not going back? It is just needing a little bit of lube. I wonder if I can take these out. How do I take these out, do you think? It's a little bit tight on the edge there. Just in here there is actually a little hole. I don't know if that's supposed to be lubricating, but silicone is definitely the right grease to be using on plastics here. And I'm wondering if I put something in that's going to then, because it just feels like it's spinning on something that it shouldn't do. Well, unfortunately, despite my best efforts of lubing it up, I just couldn't get it to... It was better, but I've actually rolled it back together. I'm just going to have to leave it in the retracted position. The car's got a tinted roof. To be honest with you, I never really used it, but just like things to work. Anyway, let's get it back on the car. It's going to be tucked away. Maybe a job, if I find the used one online, I'll replace it at some point, but I'm not that fussed about it. As I said, 21 years old, what do you expect? People ask me, how do I know the information that I do? But I use things like e-manual online. You pay for it once, and then you've got something like 7,000 pages worth of information. You can download the whole document, so it's saved on your PC. You don't need an internet connection. And it even indicates it. It shows you the area on the car. I've got an oxygen sensor which I need to replace, and it's down in the back there. So what I can do is use my e-manual and just type in oxygen sensor. Got a nice little diagram, and it tells me the different oxygen sensors on the car. So honestly, get yourself one of these manuals. This is a 21-year-old car, and look how complicated it is. So God knows what modern cars are like. Having an electronic manual that you can just quickly tap into and go and find the specific problem is absolutely indispensable. And you know, once you've got this manual, it's yours for life. There's no subscription. You can have it offline, and you can look up whatever you want to, whenever you want to. Also, right now, there's a 22% discount for you down below in the description. So I want to show you something. This little doodah here, you can actually see evidence of, I get the tiniest little drip that comes down because the gap on this side is a fraction more than the other side. And I've been meaning to adjust it since I've had the car. and I've had the car for about 8 years, and I've so far got away with it. I'm going to show you what I've done. It's a cheap fix. It saves £100 to remove the internal roof lining, and you can always try this. You need two things: a nice little bit of rubber tape and a bit of Vaseline. So if you look carefully here, there's a little bit of rubber, and it's actually this stuff. It's double-sided rubber tape, and obviously you don't want it double-sided. All you do is smear a little bit of grease on the side that you don't want it to stick, otherwise it's going to stick to the other side. But importantly, stick it onto one of the surfaces. So I put it here because you can't really see it. So this whole piece here is stuck on, and it's only about 1/2 mil thick. I'm just going to peel it off just to show you. There you go. Now, that little bit of rubber added with a bit of Vaseline has sealed the car for the best part of 8 years. And I do get a little drip now and then. I've been meaning to do it properly, so that's what I'm going to do today. Now I've got the roof lining off because I'm trying to adjust that rear blind. I'm going to show you how you properly adjust that roof alignment. Now if you go to Mercedes to do this, they are going to charge you an arm and a leg. The labour alone is going to be hundreds and hundreds of pounds, literally for the sake of actually adjusting 3 screws. But it really isn't that difficult. That's the whole point I do this channel, is that these older cars, they just need a little bit of TLC now and then. So it's this screw here, and this one. And the reason there's no screw in that is because I've actually just removed the rear blinds. But normally you would just loosen that off because it supports the blind as well. So undo those 3, you get a bit of wiggle room, you adjust it slightly, you close the roof, and then on the top of the roof, and I'll show you in a second, there's actually a special gauge. You need a 7mm gap all the way across, and you'll find that if that gap is a little bit bigger on one side, then you're probably going to get a leak. So let's undo these bolts. I'm going to move it slightly, tighten it up, and that way it should bring this corner tighter into the A-frame. Okay, just going to get some light there. There is a little bit of movement, not much, don't need much, and obviously by moving this whole thing in, it's going to move that hook further towards the front of the car. By the way, this is a micro switch. That's what engages when you close the roof. So I can see that that's pushed forward slightly. Going to nip it up there. I'm going to nip it up here. And I can actually see by the alignment of that hole that I'm now about 3/4 of a mil closer to the front. And do you know what? I've gone the wrong way, haven't I? I want to go back so that it pulls forward. I'll edit that bit out. I just realised I've gone the wrong way. Right, I want to go back, not forward. Schoolboy error. Okay, start again. Have a look there. So there you can just see that's the movement. That's all it is. Just that little movement is going to pull that roof where you want to go. As I said, the third one you'll pick up on the roller blind when I put that back. Yeah, I can see now that that's moved about a mil or so towards the back. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to close the roof, make sure it all works, and I'll show you that gap with the 7mm that you're using as a reference point. Remember to take your piece of wood out. Let's start the car. Okay, so let's close the roof down, make sure there's definitely nothing left in and around the hinges. Make sure that's all nice and clear. Be safe, people, be safe. you go, you can see the micro switching gauge and how that's then pulled in, and is hoping it's now tighter on this side here. That I've got much, yeah, in fact I can see from here that it's tighter. So I'm just going to open that again so you can see it in action. It's a work of art, isn't it? It really is. Right, let's have a look at that 7mm gap I was telling you about. So this is the gap here, and actually I can see from the evidence mark, when I say evidence mark, I'm talking about the natural dirt line, and it's supposed to be 7mm. So you can get yourself a gauge, or you can just get a ruler and just work your way across and see if there's any deviation between this side and that side. As I said, all the way along here it should be 7mm. Now, as I said, if you go to Mercedes, there's actually a template that fits into the window, and it's supposed to touch evenly all the way along, but who's got that template and who's got the time and the money for it? So let's solve the problem ourselves. It's not that difficult. So get yourself a ruler. First thing you want to do is make sure that it's level across there and that there's no sort of obvious gaps. And I would say actually in the middle there is a little bit of a dip there, but it doesn't leak there, so I ain't going to worry about it. Let's check now the gap all the way along. As I said, it should be 7mm. Now if I just carefully go along and not scratch my paint, that looks pretty good. Looks alright to me. Check the other side. So once you've got your roof all adjusted and you've got your roof lining back on again, there's going to be 2 screws now that you need to maybe just tweak because you've changed the geometry ever so slightly. And it's that one there, and likewise on the respective side as well. So stop at about this position here and then get your 10mm spanner, and this is what you do. Have a look just here. This is what you need to adjust. This is your plastic cover which you need to pull down, and if you can keep pulling it down you put it all the way off. So you would never know it's there because when you actually first do it, it's hidden all the way up. So you have to get a little screwdriver and push this down. My advice is then actually to put a little bit of grease around there so you can actually do it easily. And you just want to undo it like this. There you go. I've now loosened that off. So what you want to do now is either tighten this or undo it, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. This will then push the rubber mount in that direction, which will mean that when it comes down to its stop, which is here, it will then cause the roof to squeeze up tighter. Likewise, if you find it makes the noise worse, then go the opposite way so that the roof is not being pushed against this quite as much. And you need a happy medium. I'd recommend doing maybe 1 turn at a time. Just a little bit of perseverance. Do it once, tighten it, take it for a test drive, see how it is. And that's why in my armrest here I keep a little 10mm spanner just for that occasion, because it can actually depend on the weather. When the weather's warm or cold, you may find that the rattle increases a little bit. So keep your spanner handy and you can always adjust it whenever you need to. So another nice little thing you can do is get yourself a nice smear of Vaseline I mentioned earlier and just put it on that particular rubber joint there, and it will physically give it that little extra bit of seal for water. There's also a really good silicone lube. Have a look below, there's a video I've done on how to lubricate all the seals on your roof, because if you keep the rubber seals nice and clean, then it will pull the roof tight together. So you've got to keep that maintenance, make sure that it's nice and clean all the time. Now, if you do those sorts of things, fingers crossed you have a roof that doesn't leak on you. Just make sure you put these on the right way. What they've done is they've left a little groove there, and that then locks into the rear bit there, so they lean towards the edge. this side as well. And there's one little tip that I like to do as well, so that it doesn't squeak, and also if I ever need to take the roof lining off again, just pop a little bit of grease on these fixings here. It makes a world of difference trying to take them off and on. It also would stop it from maybe squeaking, especially this one, because this is the one that ended up snapping off. I'm going to get one screw in the front here, and then I'll go and clip the back on and it'll hold it in place. Just pull back the rubber trim each side. Like that. I'll do the same on the other side. Let's get some screws in. Okay, done. Right, I like to just raise the roof and let the bit of wood come out naturally. Get your hands well away from it. You like that catch there? So I do this channel to try and help people. I've always had that mentality. If I can save people money and time and effort and stress and get them to enjoy their cars, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Giving back. And these cars now, they're getting less and less on the roads. But when you see them, and when you get to a car park and you realise you're the one with the oldest car in that car park, but you're probably the coolest guy in the car park, it puts the biggest smile on your face. The amount of people that say to me, oh my God, that car is so nice. What year is it? What model is it? They just don't know. I love that. I've always loved things that are different. And with a little helpful few tips of the videos that I do, I'm hoping more people can enjoy that feeling that I get. You know, I haven't worked at Mercedes before. I've never even worked in a garage. But I'm an engineer to trade, and I generally spend most of my life trying to sort out problems, and if I can find a way to fix it myself, I'll find a way. Good luck to you. Let me know how you get on. Appreciate it if you got to the end of the video. Thank you so much to my members and subscribers. Let me know if there's a certain video you want. I'll do my very best to do it for you. See you on the next one.